Let me tell you my biggest secret. Becoming a hyper polyglot has destroyed my life. People think that being a polyglot is impressive. In reality, it gave me identity issues, it gave me a broken relationship with my native language, it gave me the constant doubt from people around me, and a brain that never shuts up. I'm gonna show you the reality of the language YouTube, and if you're somebody that does speak multiple languages, at the end, I'll show you how I deal with these problems and how you can deal with yours. Well, let's start with the first problem. Mixing languages constantly. Because mixing words is annoying, but mixing identities is even worse. Sometimes I don't even know what language I'm speaking in this moment. And it sounds chaotic from the outside when you reach for one word and then you remember it in one specific language, and that's not the language that you need right now. It doesn't only happen with languages that are similar, like let's say French and Spanish that I speak. Sometimes when I'm learning Chinese, I mix words from Chinese with words from French. How does that even happen? And the worst thing is that it does get worse with pressure. So for example, if I'm trying to speak good French in public, I will mix it with Spanish way more. Or it happens with Spanish or in English very often where I just can't seem to speak English, even though I speak English like 10 times better than I speak French or Spanish. Or even with Russian, that is like my first language. I constantly keep forgetting words and people are like, are you sure it's your first language? Yes, it is. And the thing is that it also makes me sound fragmented. And I thought of myself as somebody very eloquent until I learned like my fifth language probably, because then I started speaking B1 even in my native language, even though I have like all those C1 diplomas. And not just that, but I'm also mixing accents all the time. And sometimes when I speak Spanish, I still don't know my accent. People ask me like, oh, are you from Puerto Rico? I'm like, I'm not from Puerto Rico. I don't know what you're talking about. And in French, I just can't fake the phonetics and everybody knows I'm a foreigner. That's humiliating. And honestly, this is where it gets personal. And even though it was jokes until now I'm going to give you the point that hurts me sometimes deeply. Losing your native language. My native language is Azerbaijani and also Russian. I grew up speaking Turkish too, but I usually say that my native languages are Russian and Azerbaijani, while my first language is Russian. Sometimes when it comes to Azerbaijani, I feel terrible when I understand that I speak all those languages better than my native language. This is the way being a polyglot destroyed my relationship with my native language and with my culture. It's not cute when people that do speak your native language very, very fluently tell you that you're a problem because you learn everything other than your native language. When they tell you that you're not putting in any effort just because your native language is a smaller one, and you realize that it is true at one point. English became too dominant. English became the language that my brain works in. English stopped feeling foreign and it became my default language. It became the language that I read in. It became the language that I understand the best. It became the language that is a native to me. It became the language that I speak best. I'm literally the only person in my whole class in law school where I don't speak my native language on the level of English or even Spanish or even French that I learned when I was 18 at an adult age. And Azerbaijani, I'm trying to recover that. I am doing my best to learn it more. I'm doing my best to read more in Azerbaijani and to become a good professional Azerbaijani speaker. But Russian, that is the language that I grew up speaking, and my dad is a fully Russian speaker. My mom speaks both Russian and Azerbaijani, but she used to speak more Russian to me too. And with Russian, I don't feel any emotional connection to it anymore. By the way, if there are any Russian learners, I can explain to you how Russian works so it's easier for you. So if you want to, just mention it in the comments. But I feel like I'm losing my connection to the language that was my main language until the age of 13. Until I learned English. And that feels odd when I'm around Russian speakers and I just don't want to speak it. But language is memory. Language is family. Language is humor and how childhood feels. So when it weakens, you feel like your identity is being edited and you feel like you're disconnected because the way your brain works, the way you speak, the way you sound, and which you understand and comprehend is so different from people around you. And if this wasn't enough, people don't even give you dignity in struggling to learn your native languages, relearn them, or come back to them. They constantly think that you're lying, which leads me to my next point, people not believing me. The next thing that ruined my life after becoming a hyper-polyglot is that people start doubting me even before I open my mouth. On this channel, I show people my literal diplomas that I have, my recent diplomas that they can verify anywhere. I show them my sources. Even though I got a lot of support from this channel, I'm still getting a lot of hate and doubt, which I understand completely. Or when I go on some sort of an interview and they have to bring 10 people to test my English and test my French, and after they verify that I speak these languages, they're like, yeah, okay. No, but they act like it doesn't matter. Apparently, if you speak several languages, people on the internet become fluency police. Nobody investigates liars in a way that people investigate multilingual girls online. Fluency is not native level, okay? Fluency is like a B2 level where you can freely express yourself. Of course, it's a definition that everybody can understand in a different way. It's hard to learn a language on a native level because native level is not about grammar, it's not about phonetics, it's not about anything. It's about growing up in a culture where you learned that language, right? Let's say in Azerbaijan, many people speak Turkish, right? But my Turkish is better than other people's Turkish because I grew up communicating with Turkish speakers a lot because I was exposed to Turkish way more than just the Turkish media that a normal Azerbaijani is exposed to. I went to Turkey for a couple months every year. So for me, it was like a native language and I may pass as that, but learning a language on a native level is, I would say, almost impossible unless you dedicate around a decade of dedicated study to it. So why are we trying to bully people online just because they don't speak like us, native speakers? And this also makes you over-explain and makes you anxious over smaller mistakes. I have a million French-speaking friends. I will never care about my pronunciation. And if I say something wrong, I'll be and I'll laugh about it. But when you're a polyglot in social media and you get so much hate, you're so scared of saying something in French because people are going to be yeah, you don't have a native accent. I'm not supposed to have a native accent. I have fluent writing. I can speak fluently. Please leave me alone. It's the thing about internet. You can see that I have curls, right, on my head. But if I say that I'm curly, everybody in the internet is going to be debating that, no, you're wavy, you're 2C, you actually have straight hair. Is it real? Is it the perm? So dealing with people is terrible, right? But you know what's worse than that? Dealing with the languages and maintaining them. Okay, you learn the language, you have your exam, you're fluent, and then what? You don't speak to any Spanish-speaking people, you don't have a lot of Spanish speakers in your town. What are you going to do about it? This is where the problem comes. Anxiety over forgetting a language. You put so much effort in learning. This one feels like a burden, not just an inconvenience, to be honest. This is the scam that nobody warned you about. People always romanticize learning, but nobody talks about maintenance. And you kind of feel the language is kind of dying, but you speak it and you're saying that you're fluent because you are fluent, but then when somebody speaks to you, you have to reprocess and reprogram your brain to speak, to go back to the language. I'm going to be giving you all the solutions at the end, but let me just vent about it. There is no finish line to a language, right? It never ends. And at one point, I even realized that I wasn't just connecting languages. I was collecting chores. And to be honest, right now I'm learning my ninth language, Mandarin Chinese. And I don't know if I will continue going down that line, which I want to do, but it feels overwhelming. The next thing that ruined my life after becoming a polyglot was the anxiety that comes with it. Being a hyper polyglot is so much work. You also get performance anxiety because every conversation feels like a test to yourself, even after all of those exams that you prepared for and all of those essays that you wrote and all of those videos that you can watch in a language just like your seventh language. Every conversation is a test. Every YouTube video is an examination, and you feel like it's never going to end. Then there comes the comparison anxiety, because you listen to somebody that speaks more languages, somebody that speaks 11, and you're like, they did that, and I'm praising myself that did way less than that. But if you're struggling with this, it's normal. There are people that have more time. There are people that are just doing linguistics, and that's basically their job. you don't have to be the best polyglot to be a polyglot. You don't have to be the best polyglot to help people become polyglots. I coach people in learning languages with my specific system, right? Which is immersion, and it's mostly social media based. You can learn more about that on my channel. But I see how much this comparison anxiety can destroy lives. When people look at polyglots online and they're like, Mehin, see this girl online, she speaks like 2 million languages and I speak 2. Oh my God, Mehin, she speaks we both have the C1 level, but she speaks so much better. Because this is circumstantial. Somebody can have the same level as you on paper, but speak better than you. That's normal. They can be more fluent than you, but you can be better in listening. They can speak the street language better, but you can speak the academic language better. Even in our native languages, there are people that are more eloquent, there are people that speak better, there are people that write better, and there are people that just don't. Speaking more languages can just be a thing of privilege at one point. So stop comparing yourself to people online. Try to learn from them. Try to understand why you're really learning the languages that you're learning. Because you want to communicate to people. Because I like it when I go to an international event and when I can be friends with all the French people just because I speak French. Or where every Spanish-speaking country person is naturally my buddy because we speak the same language. And they're like, how do you speak Spanish as an Azerbaijani? Or when I can speak to the Portuguese, I'm like, oh my God, I'm stuck at a B1 level. Help me, how do you say that in Portuguese? Oh, let me tell you. Or I'm like, oh my God, let's do it this way. I speak Spanish, you speak Portuguese. Let's see how much we understand. When I like business content in French, and when I like health content in Spanish, and when I like philosophy in Portuguese or literature in Russian. If I hesitate right now, I feel fake. If I mix, I feel sloppy. And sometimes I even doubt that I'm a polyglot. The perfectionism is terrible. Say something in Mandarin and you're saying something in Mandarin. They're like, you have a terrible pronunciation. Yes, it's because I'm A2 level. Now that we're done with all those problems that are associated with languages, let me tell you the solutions to each of these problems because you deserve it. I'm going to give you the value now. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I'm on a road to 2,000 subscribers. I would love to have you on the team. So for the mixing languages problem, you have to have different slots for different languages and different environments for them. For example, one app, TikTok for one language, Instagram for another, YouTube long form for the third one. Different creators for different languages. I actually divided by topics. I only watch business, finance, and money content in French. I only watch health content in Spanish. I don't know why, but the health content in Spanish is amazing. I almost only read fiction in Russian because I love Russian classics. I only read news in Italian. I have Red Note for Mandarin. And also because the languages I'm trying to maintain the hardest are Spanish and French because I care about them the most. I can even switch days. One day is French day, then Spanish day, French day, so that I don't confuse it. I love listening to philosophy podcasts in these languages. To the problem of losing your native language, what I do is I try to speak more of my native language with my family first, which is a little bit hard because we're not used to it, but we're all learning our native language back. That's good. And try to speak with your friends more in your native language and try to prioritize it more. Understand that even if a language is not spoken by a billion people on Earth, it still doesn't make it less valuable. I also try to read more complex things in my native language so that I can develop it and also try to put myself in more uncomfortable situations. For example, before when I was interning anywhere, they would just give me the English work because my Azerbaijani wasn't that good. And they would just give me English or translation stuff. And now I ask for work in Azerbaijani, precisely. The next thing is about people doubting you and people thinking that you're a liar. Just honestly, in this case, just don't believe them. I know it's hard to say, just don't pay attention to them because people are going to doubt you no matter what. Let people doubt, let them speak one language while you're traveling the world, making friends everywhere, and being happy. And then let's move on to solutions about maintenance thing. Firstly, you can use the solutions that I told you about, keeping separate apps, etc. Other than that, I would suggest that you also keep separate journals. So to maintain languages, I suggest that you have journals in the language you want to maintain and that you rotate them. For example, I didn't post this video. I have it in my drafts, about like the 3 journal types that I think a person has to use. If you want this video, just tell me in the comments, I'll post it. I think you can use like your planner in Italian. Then you can use your normal daily journal in Portuguese. And then you can do your like, I don't know, shadow work journal. You can use it in the language that you speak the best. Let's say like for me, it's like Spanish, right? And also one thing that helps me is trying to integrate myself into the culture more. For example, I'm trying to not miss out on what's happening in the Spanish media or French media, the whole inside jokes and everything like that, because that's actually what makes you more passionate about the language and more feel more like a part of the culture. If you are a foreigner that learned the language, you are a part of the culture, to be honest. Stop separating yourself. Even if people don't want to have you, they can't deny having you. Like if somebody learns Russian, like that's the thing that I hate the most. And it probably happens in the whole like post-Soviet space when people that are not like native Russian speakers get judged when they learn Russian because they're trying to like, oh, you're trying to adapt to the post-Soviet, like, I don't know, stereotypes. No, I'm never, like, for example, I would never judge somebody that learned one of my native languages, even if they speak like in a sloppy manner or even if they make grammar mistakes. Stop thinking about that. Also for maintenance, I also suggest that you keep different social media accounts. For example, like an X account for where you only tweet, when you only post things in one language, and then having an Instagram stories thing where you do it in a separate language. Also maybe having like a Medium account and like writing stuff. If you're doing any school activity, try to write something in the language that is not native to you. But like maintenance doesn't really need obsession. It just needs the rhythm and also routines. For example, if you have a routine of reading the news every single day, do it in Italian. So let's move on to the perfectionism issue. Languages are flexible. Be flexible with them. If you learned a language to a level of A1, this deserves approval. If you learned it to a level of C1, you're a literal freak. You're not normal. Learning a language to a B2 to a C1 level that's not your native language is not normal. You're an exception. If somebody doubts you, if somebody's doubting you, if somebody's hating on you, bad for them. Who do you think they are? How are they going to affect you? You're not fake because you mix. That's actually even cooler. I don't want to be tied to one language and one culture. Guys, learn Spanish, please. Finally, do it this year. I have videos on it that can help you. Use my videos, use other people's videos. Honestly, after watching this video, go on the internet and watch a couple of videos about the language that you want to learn. It doesn't have to be mine, but do it. I believe in you. And tell me which one hit harder for you. Tell me what you're struggling with. Let's be together in this fight against the haters. Because what we're doing is amazing. And even though people say that we have translation right now, we have ChatGPT, we don't need many languages or polyglots, you're always going to relate to somebody that speaks your native language better. And they're going to relate better to you if you speak their language. And this is the most important thing ever. If you've enjoyed this video, subscribe, like it, and please comment. I'm also going to give you my free sources that I learned Spanish and French with. I'm going to give you my free language learning map. So you can use all of those that are completely free PDFs in the description box. I promise you, you're going to get it.